in the past couple of years, we've seen a huge increase in digitalization, across the board. Obviously, with all the lockdowns, people had to, if they weren't, actively doing e-commerce, and getting their food online, they certainly learned. But we also saw a lot of a lot of interest around precision nutrition, for example. Obviously, the alternative protein space, um, and obviously now I think um, also all the retail tech deliveries. We've seen huge rounds of investment,
Right.
um, but obviously that's all part of the digitalization, although obviously it has many different you know um, connotations, from AI to, again, to delivery.
Hi, Sharon. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you? And happy
I
New
am
Year.
doing very well. Thank
Great.
you so much. Thank you so much. How is the weather in Italy now?
It's chilly but sunny. So lunchtime it gets nice and warm, and in the evening
Awesome.
it's very cold. We go
Awesome.
towards below zero, but I can't complain. It's beautiful January. And what
Lovely.
about you?
It is pretty cold here in India, and I am in New Delhi. And this season, it is getting worse in terms of cold. So, but yeah, we are pacing it up. It is we tend to eat a lot during winters, right? So that is the funny part of it, and the best part as well.
Yeah, that's, I think, the winters in general.
Yeah.
The chilly weather activates your hunger.
Yes, you're right. Awesome. So really appreciate your time, Sharon, for joining in. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Good morning, viewers. Welcome to the new episode of Sustainable Future Food Stop. Today we have with us Sharon from Italy. Sharon has been at the forefront of building and growing the global food and agri-tech ecosystem for the better part of a decade. Her work with startups, corporations, investors, policymakers, institutions, and youth landed her the title of one of Forbes' most powerful women shaping the future of food. Sharon believes in connecting the dots, creating opportunities for others, and facilitating the collaboration that will lead to systemic change within the food system. In 21, Sharon founded Edible Planet Ventures, a systemic platform that aims to reshape our food system by convening leading voices and visionaries to collaborate and innovate around the most pressing challenges of today. She currently sits on the advisory board of the WFP Italia, is founding board member of Agri Food Tech Italia Association, is an advisor to two funds, and is a mentor for both Rockstart Agri Food and the Food Tech Accelerator. She is also global chair for food innovation for the G100 nations. So Sharon, I mean, quite a lot of experience in the industry. So how does it feel like? And if you can share a couple of your experiences being the part of chair as a G100.
So yeah, the G100 is a great initiative that actually promotes gender equality in overall in all the sectors. So the initiative, obviously, I'm global chair for food innovation, and there's global chair for energy and transportation, and all the different sectors. And our mission is to you know bring together at least 1 million voices throughout all the industries. So my role for global chair, I in turn nominate country chairs, and they in turn nominate 100 local chairs. And our goal is to help shape policy with the major institutions and enact change fundamentally.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, based on your experience and understanding, we believe that it is extremely important to build the right ecosystem for CPG brands to scale big, right? So, how is Edible Planet Ventures contributing to this?
Yeah, so as you know, you said sort of in my introduction, right? I and we are ecosystem builders at heart. And as you said, I personally have spent better part of a decade building a cross-vertical network to support startups, companies, investors to engage and connect and accelerate innovation. Um, Obviously, our role, we don't just work with CPG companies, but across the whole value chain from farm to fork and beyond. But, regardless, of what vertical you're in, with emerging brands, we feel that building an ecosystem is a crucial step. And
Sure.
in our case, whether they are looking for, startup, for example, looking for funding or to launch a POC or, as well as build up their brand, right?
Mhm.
We feel that people and those connections are a very, very important step.
True.
And in all, like really to reshape our food system, we need to start thinking systemically instead of re-engaging in the same old linear thinking of the past. It is through collaboration and networks that we can truly um, bring change forward.
Sure, sure. So, Sharon, of course, I mean, is an important aspect these days and going forward as well, looking towards building the planet well. So, what points should be kept in mind for an emerging CPG brand towards sustainability?
Well, I think numbers and trends um, speak a very powerful story, right? So now consumers are all about people, planet, and profit.
Mhm.
So it's the people and the planet and the companies that in turn need to think also how to incorporate those two, well, obviously making profit. So um I was literally reading yesterday a few articles onto the 2022 trends and some market research, and all in all, a brand needs to look obviously at sourcing, their supply chain, their packaging. um Consumers want to prefer spending, especially through COVID, and we'll maybe talk
Yeah,
about this a little bit later, but they want to put their money into something that has meaning. um and this has been a constant emerging, I would say constant trend. Then in
sure.
reality, also it's really a question of price a lot of the time. But I think these are definitely all points that CPG brands have to take into account when launching a brand.
Sure, sure. Okay. So coming down to my next question, I mean, based on your experience in North American as well as European markets, what are those new consumer trends which you think are shaping up well?
So, in the past couple of years, we've seen a huge increase in digitalization, um, across the board. Obviously, with all the lockdowns, people had to, if they weren't, actively doing e-commerce, and getting their food online, they certainly learned. But we also saw a lot of a lot of interest around precision nutrition, for example. Obviously, the alternative protein space, um, and obviously now I think um, also all the retail tech
Mhm.
deliveries. We've seen huge rounds of investment.
Right.
Um, but obviously that's all part of the digitalization, although obviously it has many different, you know, um, connotations, from AI to, again, to delivery. Um, but also in terms of, I think, more CPG flavors and behavioral shifts,
Mhm.
that have been brought on. We see them real clearly.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So, I mean, you have been mentoring and you have seen a lot of CPG brands grow big. So, what are those three non-negotiable points that that a young brand should really take care of while launching a product in the international market?
So to me, the first, thing is, having a strong team.
Sure.
Um, people are what make a company. We can see two similar ideas, strong team always, wins. Um, Obviously the marketing part is important. You want to, you know, um, create, enough marketing and communication that, you can sell your product. So you have to have done well, if we're talking about an international market.
Sure.
And obviously a well thought of expansion plan, because, it's not just like, oh, I want to go and open in India without knowing anybody. And,
Yeah.
you have to do the work. But here also the team comes in play, and the ecosystem that we discussed before, the people, your network can help.
Mhm. Okay. Interesting. So, Sharon, I mean, of course, you have being so much experienced person in the industry. You have seen a lot of brands scaling big in the past. So, how do
Mhm.
you see the difference in the go-to-market strategies then versus go-to-market strategies now?
So it's, I don't, to me, it's not so much how the go to market strategy changed. It's, we've seen a huge shift, for example, in funding, right? Now we see investment rounds that, before were thought to be, A rounds. Now they're even pre-seed. So the
Yes.
amount of money um, definitely changes things, right? More
Absolutely.
money, you can do more things. So, at the end of the day, a good go-to-market strategy, regardless of whether it was 5 years ago or today, stays true, but the resources change. And obviously, we live in a quicker world, but um, COVID aside, obviously, um, you know, you always have to do tweaks, right? So yes, if you take COVID into account, you depending on where you're going, you'll have to, you know, do things a little bit differently. But the strategy in itself, I think it's the resources that have changed tremendously.
Sure. Sure. That's a great insight. Thank you so much for this.
Hmm.
So, coming down to my last question for this session, I mean, so during this pandemic, we have seen a lot of unexpected consequences, right? So, what recommendations do you have for the CPG entrepreneurs to address these nuances and bounce back fast?
So I like the word nuances because I think, as I said in sort of the beginning, seeing things systemically and not linear thinking, it's, if you look at, the huge alternative protein boom,
Mhm.
um, it's great. People throw, there's tons of funding for products. But, what about the supply chain, and what about where you're sourcing the ingredients? Because
Sure.
also, not all alternative protein products are clean, if you will.
Right.
And
Yes.
if I am eating something that is heavily processed or has been sourced, with a lot of, industrial methods and fertilizers and chemicals, is it better that, or is it better a regenerative grown meat, that
Right.
is? So that's what I mean by nuances. And with COVID, we have seen obviously a lot of the issues that we had taken for granted or we didn't want to see. We've seen the workers struggle in the United States, for example, the supply chain debacle,
Yeah.
we have seen a lot of issues that weren't right. We knew that they weren't, solid, but not people didn't realize, right?
Sure.
So that's what I mean by truly understanding those nuances and having those start thinking about the unexpected consequences of everything you do. Because, for example, there was a recent footprint report, sort of 98% of US customers who bought alternative meat also purchase conventional cow products, right? So
Yes.
that is really not going away. But what they are looking for is how is that sourced? So if we want to be more sustainable, we can't just, fix one problem by creating another. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have to start saying, okay, let's all do things well, in whatever part of the conversation, that you find yourself. So I think the environmental impact is such a broad conversation, but it's time that we sort of all do our part, right?
Absolutely.
And now we see also a lot of need, I would say, as I said before, for precision nutrition, right? So we see funding into, methods, whether using food to prevent diseases, cure diseases. Um, we want that, we need to feel better and well. Wellness is a big part of it.
Yes.
Diet is a big part of that, right? So everything is connected, and we just sort of have to understand that, as I said, we have to see things systemically and holistically, not just. And it starts also from education, because you need to educate the consumer as well as, most importantly, the CEOs.
Yes. Lovely. Great. Thank you so much for these invaluable insights, Sharon. I'm sure these will be really useful for the viewers, and really appreciate your time once again. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And enjoy this year. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. You as well. Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.